All right, welcome to another episode of The Rundown. I'm going to be giving my analysis on last night's game between Washington and Green Bay, and also talk about a few of the games on Sunday, such as Philadelphia and Kansas City, Chicago and Detroit, and Seattle and Pittsburgh. But first, I want to start off by giving my reaction to last night's game. And Green Bay won 27-18, and I know that Green Bay only won by 9 points, but I honestly feel for the most part that they dominated this game. I mean, Washington could have made it interesting in the end, but they didn't. They just didn't capitalize on their opportunities. And Green Bay dominated, honestly, on both lines of scrimmage for the most part. And honestly, Green Bay could have won by 20 if the opportunities they had in the red zone, they could have taken advantage of it. And the first quarter, you knew that it was going to be a long night for Washington. They had 2 3-and-outs to start the game, but Green Bay, even though they didn't score on their first possession, you knew that they were going to be able to go up and down the field against Washington. And honestly, they could have gotten points out of it. They went for it on 4th and 3 on Washington's 33-yard line. I was cool with it, but I feel that Jordan Love got a little bit greedy trying to throw a touchdown pass. I feel that when you're on 4th and short, you should be trying to move the sticks along. He got a little bit greedy, so it was a turnover on downs. Could have gotten 3 points out of it, or at the very least 6 points, but they took a shot when I feel that they didn't need to. But honestly, that was fine because it didn't affect them in the end whatsoever. Tucker Kraft, the tight end for the Packers, he looked like Rob Gronkowski the way he was just barreling over people and getting yards after the catch. And he really broke the game open in the third quarter. There was like a 1st and 25, and he got 19 yards out of it. And I'm like, yeah, this is over, because before that, Washington was really struggling to turn the ball over on Green Bay, and that 1st and 25, you're like, okay, this is their shot. They have to get 25 yards, but it didn't matter. He got 19 yards, and they ended up getting the first down anyways. It was a prime opportunity, and Washington's defense really couldn't do anything. Washington, on the other hand, their receivers were struggling. They really couldn't get any separation whatsoever. They were covered like gloves, and there were many times where on short downs, Daniels tried to throw it down the sideline, hoping a receiver could get it. Really wasn't any separation there whatsoever, and even down the field, the receivers were getting covered pretty well. Despite all of that, despite them not being able to move the ball up and down the field, they were able to turn it on later in the game. At one point, they did get it down to 17-10, but once they scored the touchdown, Green Bay got the ball. They scored a touchdown, and it's 24-10. But there was like about 8.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Washington absolutely could have scored in like 4 minutes, and then hope that their defense could get a stop against Green Bay. They can get the ball back, hopefully tie it up, go to overtime, and we'll see what's what. But Washington pretty much goes 4-and-out. They went for it on 4th down, and it was a 4th and 4, and I didn't mind them going for it because, I mean, even though there were a few times where Washington was able to get a stop on Green Bay was very, very explosive. And honestly, if Jordan Love was able to hit on a few of his deep passes, they could have won by 15, 20 points. I mean, he just misconnected on some of those throws and his receivers. But you can rely on your defense to give you a stop, so I understand why they went for it on 4th and 4. Ultimately, they didn't get it. Green Bay is already in field goal range at that point. They kicked the field goal, and at that point, it's pretty much over. Green Bay's defense was freaking awesome, man. They were awesome against Detroit, and they were awesome against Washington. Micah played 68% of the snaps, and he was there, man. He was dominating against his matchups, whether it was against Laramie Tunzel or Josh Connerly. He had like 8 pressures and half a sack, and so far that trade is paying dividends, and it looks like Green Bay made the right decision in trading him and paying all that money for him. They just have to hope that either this year or the years down the line, it pays off with the Super Bowl. And there was that stat on Thursday Night Football where so far all the Packers greats have won Super Bowls at the age of 27. Brett Favre did it, A-Rod did it, and who knows, Jordan Love might do it, but we'll have to wait and see. But honestly, after those guys won their Super Bowl, they never won another one. So I don't think Packers fans want that curse to continue, but I guess you take one Super Bowl over no Super Bowls. And I talked about how I wanted to see how Washington played against the Packers defensive line, and honestly, it didn't look too great. Uh, Other than a few drives, they really couldn't do it when it really mattered, especially at the end of that fourth quarter. The field goal kicker, he did miss some long 50 yarders, but honestly, I'm not going to really hold that against him. It's hard to make those type of field goals. And if it was like 40 yarders, sure, but long 50 yarders, I'm not going to knock him for missing those. I thought Washington would go to the NFC Championship and win against Green Bay, but I'm not sure about that anymore. I talked about how on Wednesday that how this matchup would be indicative on how it might play out in the playoffs, and it's not like Washington lost a close game despite what the score says. They got utterly dominated, and I don't have any doubt that Green Bay is going to be more dominant as the season goes on. I think their defensive line is going to be better, especially with Micah Parsons being able to play more coming off his back issues. Jordan Love, him and his receivers have good chemistry, but he's just missed on some of the deep shots, whether it was against Detroit or Washington. I'm sure that'll get resolved. They'll work on that as the season goes along, and he's already looking explosive despite him missing on the deep shots. If he hits on the deep shots with more regularity, it's going to be more trouble. I'm not saying that they're going to go undefeated, of course, but it might look like '07 Patriots where Brady was just throwing bombs to Randy Moss, and Green Bay doesn't have a Randy Moss on their team, but they do have a plethora of wide receivers that most of the other teams simply just don't have. And it's only been a couple weeks so far, but Jordan Love, he has a really good chance of winning MVP. I mean, I think he's probably going to be up there in the running with Lamar, Josh Allen, possibly Justin Herbert. And I really think, like, as of so far, and who knows, maybe a few weeks later things change. I think those guys may be vying for it when push comes to shove. But Jordan Love, man, if he keeps getting better and better with his receivers, he's going to have the stats. He's going to have the wins. He's also going to have the storyline. I used to think that stuff was overrated until Josh Allen won it last year, being second team All-Pro. And if he shows up in the prime time games, the voters will definitely look favorably towards him for that. So he's got a good shot to being the third Packers quarterback to win an MVP, at least in the modern era. So yeah, excited to see what the Packers do. Washington, the fact that Terry McLaurin, Debo, and all those other dudes really couldn't get any separation whatsoever against that Packers defense really, really concerns me. Now, it may just be an aberration and they'll look good against the other teams, and we might just say that Green Bay was just too freaking good, but I don't know, man. That offensive line got dominated, and Washington may be able to match up well with other teams, but against Green Bay, and I think this will go for most of the teams against Green Bay in the NFC, it's going to be a tough out, man. As long as Jordan Love plays smart and that defensive line keeps doing what they do, I don't know. It's looking like the Packers may go to the Super Bowl, but got to give it a few more weeks, but they look dominant as of now. Now, I want to talk about the Eagles and the Chiefs. It's a primetime game. You got Brady and Burkhardt commentating on it, and I know it's crazy for Chiefs fans to be worried considering all the success they've had over the past years, but I think that they should be concerned, at least for this season, because they have a good shot of going 0-2. And Mahomes and Reed, they're awesome. You can't count them out, but it's going to be a steep hill to come back from if they are 0-2. Only a few teams have come back from 0-2. I mean, they can certainly do it because they have an awesome quarterback and an awesome head coach, both who are going to the Hall of Fame. But in that division isn't a walkover anymore. In the past years, it was a walkover because the Chargers, they could never figure things out with their coach. The Raiders, they were just a disaster with like John Gruden and Josh McDaniels, and now they have a stable head coach in Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. The Broncos, they were a disaster until Sean Payne came along, and they're going to be better. So you just can't count on those wins anymore like you could do in the past. So that's going to make things even more tougher for them. I honestly don't know if they can win the division because Rashee Rice, he got suspended for 6 games. Now, Xavier Worthy, there is good news. He did practice yesterday, but I don't know how well he's going to look Sunday if he even does play Sunday with that dislocated shoulder. Chiefs, they definitely have to be sharper than they were in the beginning against the Chargers. I talked about how Mahomes overthrew Thornton. They just couldn't connect. Hollywood Brown dropped a couple passes. They can't have that going against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a great team. They're going to have to be able to, be on their mark when they play against them. And hopefully Mahomes can connect with the Hollywood Browns and the Tyquan Thorntons. And hopefully Xavier Worthy doesn't look too bad. And hopefully Travis Kelce can be Travis Kelce, although I am concerned about him. And the Chiefs, I mean, they do have a shot because Dak had a field day against them. Adoree Jackson absolutely got cooked, especially against CD. So hopefully the Chiefs wide receivers can take advantage of Philadelphia's secondary, but I'm not sure that they're going to be able to because I just don't think the Chiefs have as much great wide receiving talent as they did in the past. So there is that. And plus, the Chiefs' offensive line, they got like quite a few false starts against the Chargers. And we all know that they've had issues at left tackle and they've just had issues with their offensive line for a few of the years in the Mahomes era. Hopefully that gets better. But I don't know. I just feel that the offensive line, I mean, I think it'll get better, but I still think it's going to be somewhat of a problem. And against Philadelphia and that defense, I absolutely think that it's going to be a problem. Not as bad as the Super Bowl probably, but it's still going to be a problem nonetheless. I mean, Zadarius Smith just got re-signed. Christian Bond, he's a freaking beast, and he was awesome against Dallas. If the Chiefs want any chance of winning, their defense has got to show up. They got lit up by the Chargers receivers, so they're going to have to do a better job against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I mean, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith got shut out last game, but I don't know if that's going to happen again. And even if they are somehow able to shut down A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, the Eagles are a hell of a rushing team. I mean, Saquon Barkley didn't have the biggest of biggest stats, but he was able to just calm things down from an offensive perspective. And Jalen Hurts, whenever there was a key run that needed to be made on third down, he got it. So the Chiefs' defense is going to have to pick their poison, and the Eagles can absolutely run the ball down their throats, and that's definitely a possibility. So I don't know. I just feel with the weapons the Chiefs have on offense and how the Eagles are still like a pretty good team defensively, I just don't think Kansas City has enough to match up against Philadelphia, and I think they're probably going to go 0-2. I think that Philadelphia probably wins this 23-13. I don't know. Hopefully I'm wrong because I like seeing the Chiefs in the playoffs and I like seeing greatness, but I just don't know if they have it this year. The receivers are not the best. Don't have exceptional running backs. I don't know how great that offensive line is going to be, even though they did make some improvements towards it, especially with the left tackle position, but they did let Joe Tooney go. So, yeah, I don't know. And they do have like a hard 6-game stretch, so they're going to have to be able to tread water, but it's looking tough. It's absolutely looking tough. Now I want to talk about Chicago and Detroit, and this is a bounce-back game for both of these teams. Detroit got absolutely pummeled, mollywopped by Green Bay. Chicago blew that somewhat of a big lead against Minnesota. For Chicago, I need to see Caleb play well. He made some mistakes against Minnesota, missed some throws. I just need him to be better and see how he responds, and that's the essence of a great quarterback and a generational quarterback like Caleb Williams was deemed to be. If they can respond after not playing well in one game. That's what all the greats have done. When they don't play well in one game, they just come back the next week and they play well. So hopefully Caleb Williams is able to do that. And if he does do that, then it'll show a lot about him. Despite Detroit getting shredded on defense, their defense is still pretty good, and it'll be another challenge for Caleb to just see how he can respond and see if he can handle pressure. The O-line definitely has to be better, though, because, again, kind of like the Chiefs, they got quite a few false starts. I think by the end of the second quarter, they had like 3 or 4 false starts. That's not going to be acceptable. They got pummeled against Minnesota's D-line, and Minnesota's D-line is pretty good from time to time, and Caleb had to run, escape out of pressure, and hopefully he doesn't have to do that again too much against Detroit. He can do it from time to time, but I just want to see him be in the pocket, play within structure, and just make throws, because that's what the great quarterbacks do. Sure, like guys like Lamar and Josh, they're beasts and they're very athletic and they can run and just pummel over people. Well, Josh can pummel over people, Lamar not so much, but they can play from the pocket, and that's something that both Lamar and Josh have gotten better at. And if Caleb wants to be one of the greats, he's going to need to be able to do that, and hopefully he can do it against Detroit. And for Detroit, offensively, they just did not look good against Green Bay whatsoever. The offensive coordinator, John Morton, he seemed to struggle. Detroit's offensive line, it seems that they're gonna it's gonna have at least somewhat of an impact with Ragnow and Zeitler. Well, with Ragnow leaving and Zeitler leaving, and Jared Goff is a guy who needs a great offensive line because he's not exactly a mobile quarterback. He likes to just sit back in the pocket and just throw the ball. And if the offensive line struggles, then they're going to also struggle running the ball. And that's been the essence of what made the Lions so great over the past couple of years, is them being able to run the ball down other people's throats with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. And they like to establish the run, and if they can't do that, they're pretty much screwed, and that's going to screw up the receiving game with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams. So Chicago's defense, while it's not as good as Green Bay's, and Green Bay's defense is elite, Chicago's defense is still pretty solid. So we'll be able to see if that game against Green Bay was just an aberration and Green Bay is just an awesome dominant team, or if Detroit just struggles against everybody else and they just don't have it this year. I think the pressure is more on Detroit to win this game because that's what the expectations were, for them to at least make the playoffs by most counts. Some people had them missing the playoffs, and lots of people were concerned about them missing both their coordinators. And so far, it's looking like that. It's only week 1, but so far it's looking like that. And we're going to find out a lot more in week 2 if they're really, really going to struggle missing both coordinators. I mean, with Chicago, all I want to see is Caleb playing well, because I never expected Chicago to make the playoffs this year. I think next year is when I said, okay, they need to make the playoffs. But this year, I just want for them to establish themselves as a team that plays hard and that Caleb has a lot of potential going forward. That's what I want to see from him. But Detroit, they really, really have to play well, especially on offense. That's for sure. And defense, for them, they're healthy now. They had a bunch of injuries last year. So with them like being pretty much healthy and with Hutchinson coming back, they should be better. So I got Detroit winning this game. I'm going to go 20-14. That's my prediction. So we shall see. Now I want to talk about the Seahawks and the Steelers. And Mike McDonald's legacy is on the line. And I know that's freaking crazy to say, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or just have a quote-unquote hot take, but if we start off 0-2, it's absolutely over for us. I mean, with the Chiefs, if they start off 0-2, I still think they have a shot, but with us, it's freaking over if we go 0-2. We're not winning the division if we go 0-2, and I doubt that we're going to get a wild card spot if we go 0-2, because if we go 0-2, that'll be like 19 games of Mike McDonald showing us that he can't win against playoff established teams. I mean, Denver, like I said before, got in as a 7th seed, and they needed to beat Kansas City in the last game where Kansas City rested all their stars because they had locked up the number 1 seed. And I think with 19 games, I think that's more than enough evidence to show that Mike Macdonald is not a guy who can beat established teams that are very good. Unfortunately, it's not college where you can play San Jose State and get away with playing bad teams. In the NFL, you're going to have to play good teams, and you're going to have to beat good teams if you want to go very far. And if Mike Macdonald loses this game, it'll show that he's just not capable of doing it, because then I'll have no faith going forward that they'll be able to beat any of the good teams. They might get one good team, but that's about it. And Seattle offensively, they have to be better. I talked about how they kind of handicapped Darnold. They need to let him throw the ball a little bit more. I mean, unless we're like running the ball down the Pittsburgh defense throats, and yeah, go at it, please run the ball. But I highly doubt that's going to happen. Jackson Smith and Jigba, he just had too many targets of the offense, and Darnold said that was just basically his read, but they need to spread the ball out more. Cooper Kupp, he did not look too good, but he needs to get more targets. Tony Horton, he also needs to get more targets, and they just need to spread the ball out a lot more. And even though Pittsburgh defense got lit up by the Jets, I still think that they're a pretty good defense, especially with their secondary with Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey. And it'll be interesting to see how Seattle's receivers match up with them, and if Darnold is able to do anything against them. That offensive line for Seattle, I think, while it has gotten better, I just don't think it's very elite, and I think that they may struggle a little bit against a Pittsburgh defensive line, which will absolutely affect the running game for sure. So hopefully we can just air the ball out a little more. I mean, Breece Hall had a field day against Pittsburgh defense. I'm not sure that Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker are going to have a field day against Pittsburgh's defense, but who knows? We'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. And Seattle's defense, I mean, we got lit up by Tonjes, who's like, I don't know, kind of like third on the depth chart for the 49ers. And Tariq Woolen, he also got lit up. And there's also questions about whether or not he's going to start. And we also have Devin Witherspoon potentially not playing going against us, and Julian Love. That's going to stink, but honestly, Pittsburgh really doesn't have like a lot of weapons other than DK. I mean, Austin, I don't think he's like an established number 2. They couldn't run the ball for Jack against New York, and I'm hoping that our run defense shows up and we're able to stymie their run defense, and A-Rod has to air the ball out more. And if it's just a DK, I'm totally cool with that, and I'm sure that DK, he's going to want revenge against us. I mean, I know he's talked about how this game doesn't mean as much to him as it does like the media and other people, but I highly doubt that. I think it definitely means a lot to him. So if Seattle's defense is worth any of their salt, and if Mike Macdonald is worth anything as a coach, at least, we should be able to not lock up Pittsburgh's offense, but we should be able to hold them to relatively few points, because they just don't have a lot of weapons. And Seattle, I hope that we can see a better offensive approach and just spread the ball out a lot more. And I hope that Clint Kubiak is able to have a better game than he did against San Francisco. And if we're able to bounce back against Pittsburgh, then it'll show that we can learn from our mistakes and we can improve, because for the past few seasons that just hasn't happened. Whenever we lose in dumb ways throughout the season, and hopefully this season can be a little bit different than previous seasons. So yeah, I got Seattle winning 17-14, and I believe that we'll get it done. I think we're going to bounce back. I think that we're going to spread the ball out more, because that's been the message that's been said to the team, and that's what the players have talked about throughout this week, and I think it'll absolutely change. So yeah, that's it for the episode today. I will be back Monday to break down some of the other games. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you Monday. Thank you so much.